Hi, I'm Micro D, and in this video I want to show you a spreadsheet editor which I've implemented inside VVVV. The library which I used was ReoGrid, which is a really good stuff, and it became MIT license a year ago, so hooray for that. It means that you can use it in any commercial product, and it's being a very powerful thing. That's very good news. So, the node itself is inside mp.essentials, and it's just simply called a spreadsheet. And if you open it up, the reason why you didn't see the window immediately is that I'm recording this on the second screen, but you should see something like this. And here, if you expand this little guy here, you get to see the tabs as well. More on that later. So let's open up the help patch, and as you can, it's again the second window. Here's the help patch, yay! And here's the demo, I don't know, well, 101 spreadsheet, which demos most of the stuff what you can do here. Here's the one which demos you can set values from VVVV, and here's the one which demonstrates the multiple types of cells you can use. But let's step them aside a little bit and let's focus on this guy over here. So as you can see, you interact with it just like you would interact with Excel. Up here you have a little text box which will display the actual value of the cell, or if a cell has a formula, it will display that. More on formulas later. So in this one, just a couple of inherent features which also comes from the library. You can do the serial filling here and in the other direction also. You can copy paste values, so Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Fun fact, if I would paste that value outside into a comment window, it's just a couple of values separated by new lines. Now, if I would copy and paste the multiple columns as well, this will be a couple of values, a couple of strings separated by tabs, meaning the columns, and then new lines, of course, for the rows. You already seen that. Yeah, you can have Ctrl Z, which doesn't work too well, but you also have redo, so if anything goes wrong, at least you can partially recover it. I'm working on this, but this thing is inherently coming from ReoGrid, and even if it's open source, I don't want to dig inside a huge code base yet, because I have other priorities first to sort out. Well, the most minor version of Notui, for example. Anyhow, you can read this in the help patch yourself, and let's see the next one. So custom feature for VVVV, and which makes it a really good replacement for IO boxes if you want to create table of data. You can select any IO boxes, any cells, and drag the value with the middle mouse button. Now, the reason why you drag the values with the middle mouse button and not the right mouse button is that with the right mouse button you have a little context menu here, which also allows you to set the cell type. More on that later though. And to demonstrate it a little bit more visually, let me refetch my cell type spreadsheet and demonstrate that if you drag a value, it will drag all the selected cells with the same amount of offset, or and from another point of view, it will drag it with the same delta. And you can of course drag individually like that. Now, as you would use from VVVV, there's two modifiers. You can drag it slowly by the control, or you can drag it fast. As you can see there, it's dragging the integer part. Now you can set the speed for all of these, the normal speed, the slow dragging, or the fast dragging in the inspector. So if I go up here, and then this is our window, so open the inspector, and as you can see, here is the drag speed normal, drag speed slow and fast, and then also the frequency of the dragging. So if I set it to 1, this means that for every pixel movement, we will drag a step. And oh wow, well, if it does that, this means the shift did not release properly, and yeah, that can make your day a little bit worse. Unfortunately, because I still haven't found out how to inject, undo or redo custom events into ReoGrid, this thing can't be undone or redone. And I'm again kind of thinking about the solution, but don't expect too much in the near future. So let's set back to 5. You can set it to 10th. And so if I drag with the shift on, now it's dragging the 10th digit and not the integer part. Anyhow, that's up for dragging. Let's involve a little bit of aesthetics here. So you can freeze and unfreeze the cells, and I've implemented. Notice I didn't implement too much appearance-related features from ReoGrid, because that was not the priority or not the use case for this implementation. The use case was to replace the classic I/O box table exploitation with a way much nicer solution. But freezing and merging cells became extremely useful when sifting through your data and want to organize a little bit. So if I hit the right mouse button, you can unfreeze the cells, and as you can see now, they will move with the rest of the jazz. But if I click on this particular cell and say freeze top left, it will freeze both this column and it will freeze the table or the spreadsheet until this row here. If I say unfreeze and then choose this cell and say freeze top left, it will freeze everything until this cell. Now that's quite it's quite useless in this case. So let's undo our bidding. Now, as you can see here, there's a couple of cells which has weird shapes, weird sizes of well, it says weird sizes, and that is because they are merged. So merging a cell is just as simple as selecting it and then hitting merge. Or if actually now here the undo works. So or if you want to be quick, you can just hit the M on the keyboard, and unmerging it is again via the context menu or hitting the U on the keyboard. U as in unmerge. And so the next basic bit would be formulas, and a little bit of remarks on here can be read in the help page as well, that not all functions which are present in Excel are implemented in ReoGrid, but there are a couple which are compatible with the Excel implementation, and you can read that list, what is available built in here on this link. And so the syntax is same as in Excel. You start your typing your value with an equation mark, and then do your bidding. It will calculate a resulting value. Now to see this resulting value here, because I put on some show, I can just set this cell to plain, and then as you can see, the result on this particular cell is 0.4. If I set it back to horizontal bar, you can see now dragging this 15 value will change all the other cells, or yeah, because we're doing a normalization kind of stuff here. So let's set this back to 15. And also you can see here that if I move down this, okay, yeah, that's not the best thing to do. What did I do here? Okay. As you can see, recalculation happens on the necessary times. Although ReoGrid has a really conservative view on when the necessary time happens for recalculation. So by nudging it a little bit, you can recalculate the values. I'm also working on that aspect, but taking into account that this was developed for a deadline project, I still think it's in a quite good shape. What I wanted to demo there is that, and that failed miserably, is that by dragging the cells, which also I forgot to tell you that you can do that, in the reference addresses in the formulas like A7, which is this cell, are also offset by the amount of dragging you want to do. I don't know why I didn't drag this guy, but I will find that out later. So if you don't want to do that, you want to so if you want spreadsheet editor not to do that, you put this $sign in front of the component, either the columns or the rows, and then that will lock down the rows or the columns. So while dragging the value, it won't nudge. So as you can see here in this case, the column is locked, but the row is not. So if I drag this again, and it won't work again. Oh, okay, it actually does work. It's just the display of the progress bar and kind of bugging out. Well, anyway, what you can do. So let's put it back. Okay, and so a little bit of something I forgot also to tell you, that you can add columns or rows to any places. So if you press the plus button on your numpad, you will add a column before your selected cell. Or if you select multiple rows, for example, I selected 4 rows here. If I now press the numpad plus button, it will add 4 rows. You can undo both of these. Now the same goes for the columns. If I say I want to add the column in front of this selected cell, I press the multiply button on my numpad. And again, if I want to add 2 columns in front of my selection, then I select 2 columns or 2 cells and then press the multiply button for the on the numpad. Let's undo this, and then you can also, if I say, you can also remove, of course, cells or rows. You remove rows with the minus button, so we remove the 12 there. And if we want to remove number 16, then we are pressing the divide button on the numpad. So far, so good. So this is how you interact with this is how you interact with the values of your spreadsheet. Now, let me find, there you go. No, this is not that. Let's close this. Where did I? There you go. So there are multiple cell types for different kind of interaction, most like the different kind of I/O boxes you get. So the plain cells are just plain cells. They're just displaying the value, which either can be string or it can be a number. By the way, dragging on an empty cell, it will start dragging from a 0. I forgot to tell you. So now here you have a checkbox, and as you can see, if we go down here and clear out the saved data, you can see that it'll just acts like a checkbox. Or now we have a radio button here, which creates, which just switches through radio button style through a range of cells based on the selection you had when you changed this type. So let's demonstrate that a little bit in more intuitive manner. So I select these 5 cells and I hit the radio button. And so now this radio button will switch through this group of 5 cells, but it will leave alone my original group up here. This data gets saved into the file, into this pin, into the patch, and then you can recall it when you reload it, when you reload your patch, which also something to mention, that all the data that you edit here will be saved to this patch in a base 64 encoding. The ReoGrid format is actually an XML text, just it exposes the saved data to you as a binary stream. And so I just thought that it's nicer to have a base 64 formatted data inside an XML attribute, what you have in a patch, than the actual than an actual XML file inside an attribute. And that's nasty. So let's keep that base 64 anyway. let's see, cell types. So yeah, radio buttons checkbox, amazing. You have horizontal bar here, or you have vertical bars, which is good for visualization. You have bang buttons, which will generate a bang. And you have drop downs, which are generated from VVVV enums and enum entries. Anyway, the way how you create this, if I oops, as you can see, the right button also triggers the cell type, so it's usually just easier to start the selection from an empty cell. So if I delete this, and if I say that I want to have a drop-down list, first of all, I need to know the enum name, because otherwise this would be a really large menu. So I want to get the aspect ratio alignment enumeration for some reason, and there you go. You have the fit with, fit out, and all this jazz. And for this last two, oops, plain, I want to get the, as you can see, the last selection keeps it keeps the last search. I want to get the texture to the format here, so I can select a hypothetical texture like this. So that can be very powerful in the right hands. And now I grab this cell, grab this spreadsheet here, and as you can see, VVVV modifies data from outside, and the way how it does it, that each spreadsheet node has a behavior spin, and with that behaviors you can set any aspect of the spreadsheet from VVVV. In theory, though, because the only node I've implemented doing that is set data, which just basically sets either a value or a string data to the desired cell. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but what's the point if you can't get the data? So there are a couple of ways to do that, and each of the ways start out with the similarly named cell nodes. And each cell, each node has a different version. So sorry, this cell node has 4 versions. A single one will just get oops, yeah, but if there's no spreadsheet is connected, then it will throw an object, then it will throw a null exception error. So let's just cope with that for this moment. And then, so here I can, if I want to get this value here, H2, then I will set the second row because this is starting from 0, and then so apparently it's number 7, and indeed we get the this value. So this is only for cases when you want to get a single value for your purpose. You have the range, and this tells that, again, the top row, the left column, the same way as with the single value, but now you can also say how many rows and how many columns you want to get as well. And the data coming out is row major, so it means that it will go from left to right, top to bottom, when it will be used in a spread, as you are used to from IO boxes as well. And we have the query, which I named, unfortunately. I realized that I should name it address. But now a project relies on this naming, so it's query stacked. And this is basically an intuitive way to address a range of cells. So as you can see, A1 is referencing this cell here, but if I want to get all of these values, well, actually, I don't want to create this because it's already inside this help edge. And it gets this range. You can see it's, you can define this range a la Excel here. And finally, you get the selection version, which just allows you to pick on the values you selected. The same goes to if you want to get the bang of a button via this cell. Then the same naming conventions goes for the button as well. Oh, of course, I forgot to mention that the range node has a vectorized version, which just you feed a 4D vector to it and behaves the same way as the range version of the node. The set data uses the same say semantics, as you can see here, query, range, and single, so you can precisely tell which cells you want to set the data for. And finally, you can get the ReoGrid XML out of the node here. So I think I covered everything here, and a little bit of extra demonstration is that if you want to set values from the outside world, you can easily do so by just the tab separated values or new line separated values. Create a new spreadsheet with the star button or worksheet, and then paste it inside. As you can see, we pasted 30 numeral numbers. And that's it. If I wanted to, if you want, you can try out this help page with mp.essentials, which is available through VPM or VPDB on vvvvpm.github.io. And I will link all of these inside the description of this video. So thanks for watching, and have fun with this thing. Bye bye.